I would like to go ahead and just introduce myself my name is Mayon. I am a programmer for the Jacksonville Film Festival. And I have three very special guests whose films will be screening in our Best of Jacksonville block this weekend at the Jacksonville Film Festival. Without further ado, let me just go ahead and introduce them. So first up, we've got Sharon Cobb, who's a professional screenwriter and a member of the Writers Guild of America West. She is also the author of False Confessions of a True Hollywood Screenwriter, which is a novel about the madness of Hollywood. We've also got Michelle Calloway, who is a photographer by trade, but has recently just made this awesome debut as a multi-hyphenate in Jacksonville. So actor, producer, screenwriter. And then we've also got Roxana Lewis, who is with Roxy Dance Productions. And so she is a director, writer, and producer. And she initially entered this world of filmmaking through the door of choreographer. And so she holds extensive credits there as a professional actress, dancer, and director for live theater.
I think what I'd like to talk a little bit about is with Mandy's voice, um, something that I think is very unique about our film is that it's specifically about a non-speaking or non-verbal person on the spectrum, more importantly, in our case, a female, and that this tends to be, there's 2 points I want to make about the film real quick before I forget, but one of them is that it's very unusual to have a female main character, specifically in this realm. And it was important for me as the daughter of a mother. I'm a single child of a mom who is a single mom, and it was very important to me to really protect that very intimate and nuanced relationship. Um, I am really proud of us that we stuck with that and that we are putting that into the world. It is not a film necessarily full of adrenaline, but it is a film that is about communication, relationship, us versus them. What is our relationship to something different? If we think it's different, what do we perceive as different and why? The other thing that I want to talk about with Manny's voice, I knew I'd forget it real quick, is oh shucks. Oh, I might have to come back to it, but it is Sharon, is there anything you'll probably spark an idea in my head. It was kind of important.
Well, I think
Flesh out.
to me, one of the most interesting things is being trapped. I did not know before I saw Josh's film and before I wrote this script, with all the research I needed to do that. I just did not know. I didn't have a perspective on Mandy. Let's just say Mandy, because it's Mandy's voice, on Mandy's state of being. She and the idea of, even though she cannot verbally communicate with us as we normally would do, as a lot of people would do, she has to communicate in other ways. And that was one of the most interesting things. And when you're writing and a character like that, you have to feel that struggle within themselves. And that was an amazing thing for me, because it was like being trapped in her own body and not being able to say what she thinks. And a lot of people looking in toward her in a way that judges her in a certain way, that she's not competent, that she's not intelligent. That was not the case with our character. And that was, I mean, everybody's different, individuals are different, but I just thought that whole theme of being trapped and being different, I couldn't imagine how in real life that would be. I spent just a few days kind of in that character, as I know Roxana did. Everybody who writes, and Michelle, you know this, you have to be in the character. The character is you for a period of time. And I just thought that was, a really interesting thing that I learned. I'm like Michelle, and when I write a script, I always learn. I know we always do this, I always learned something about the world, something about other people, something about myself.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And thank you. I knew I'd need that little hint. What I wanted to bring up about the piece is that I kind of came on board in 2019. And as I mentioned on this before, I started to talk about it, is that in 2019, we started with very mainstream casting. And the film morphed tremendously over that period of time, and so did society. And one of the things that I think is very interesting about viewing the film today, opposed if we perhaps watched it in 2020, is that most people have access to a tablet, to a phone, to a laptop, to a computer. Computers were not they weren't standard in schools 5 years ago. People were not attached to their electronic device the way that we are as a general society now. So when we created this film, it was radical. It was controversial. At the time it was called facilitated therapy. Now it's called typing, right? Now there are lots of different communities that have different approaches to this, but this is something that has kind of been lost in, I think, a little bit because it's hard to tell everything about a film. But the important thing here is that the idea for this with Josh and saying, this is an amazing idea to turn into a narrative film, which has never been done before, or a narrative script. It's that society has adjusted so much. It's become normalized to be on electronics. People who really thought it was like witchcraft before, and I'm not saying everybody, oh gosh, I got to be really careful here, right? There are lots of different people in the world and lots of different ways to approach everything. So I apologize. I really want to make sure I'm just speaking for myself and for this film that over time, as a society in America, we've become accustomed to seeing people use a tablet. And so some of the extraordinary, we also put a lot into a short film. This is a giant story that really takes a lot of time for for somebody in this situation to work through fine motor skills, large motor skills, so many different aspects. We put that into a montage, this short, you know, but the point is that like we've become, oh, well, of course somebody can just use, no, it's not an of course, it's not an of course. And so I think some of that surprise element that we were kind of going for in the beginning has become like, oh, okay. On the other hand, it's really great that society now presumes competence more so. It's wonderful that society says, okay, well, yeah, why can't you do it? I mean, sometimes you got to go, boom, because, and remind them, you know. But I think that's an interesting thing to watch our film go from one place that was just, way outside of the box to now it's kind of this subtle story about very intimate internal and internal relationship to self and external relationship parent to child. The other thing I want to say out loud is that the quote at the end are the real words that were typed by a real person using facilitated communication at that time, and they were the first words shared with her mom on Mother's Day. So that is why we included them, to really pay homage to this beautiful process and that particular relationship.